Okay, so we're going to have a look at a very interesting talkback radio call from SEN. Now, the topic was about Cricket Australia going woke. Now, the caller was very unhappy that Cricket Australia is continually carrying on with wokeness and virtue signalling. He talked firstly about the dismissal of Tim Paine for making inappropriate texts. He then talked about the sacking of Steve Smith for ball tampering. Now, give this some context. Stephen Smith is the only captain in the history of international cricket to be dismissed as captain for ball tampering. He also received a 1-year suspension. Now, when you compare it with the other suspensions, there's been players that have been caught ball tampering who have received only fines and a 1 or 2 match suspension at the most. Steve Smith got 1 year. But the big thing that caused Dwayne Russell to cut this caller off and then condemn him was when he said that not all cricket fans support Black Lives Matter. Now, I think this is interesting because this shows a very big disconnect between the general public and the elites in the media. We see this a lot. We're going to come back and we're going to have a look at just the disconnect between what the public are saying about the support of Black Lives Matter and then what the elites are saying. So let's have a look, listen to this conversation, and we'll come back.
Glenn in Broadmeadows. Firstly, welcome to you, Glenn.
Good afternoon. Just on Steve Smith, I think he should be the captain. If I urge the listeners to get onto Google and type in cricketers suspended for ball tampering, Sachin Tendulkar, Michael Atherton, Waqar Younis, the list goes on and on. None of them lost the captaincy. None of them have received a year's suspension. The ICC gave Steve Smith 1 match, and then Cricket Australia thought they'd be really clever and give him a year. He never should have been suspended for a year. The ICC had it 100% right. It was worth the match, and he never should have lost his captaincy. And then there's Tim Paine. Honestly, I reckon the vast majority of cricket fans have had enough of this ridiculous virtual signalling, the woke cancel culture. I want to see the best cricketers playing for Australia. I don't want to be constantly having to put up with Cricket Australia showing their virtue and cancelling people and showing off how woke they are. I don't want to see the cricketers taking a knee for Black Lives Matter. Like most Australians, I don't support Black Lives Matter. I don't want it shoved in my face.
Like
I want to watch the cricket.
Hang on. Glenn, enough from you. Glenn, thanks for your call. But enough from you. You can't say, like most Australians, I don't support Black Lives Matter. Give us a break. And by the way, yeah, Steve Smith didn't tamper with the ball, obviously. He was suspended for a year by Cricket Australia for bringing the game into disrepute. Mark in Canberra. Welcome to you, Mark.
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. Look, just a couple of quick points.
So there you go. According to the mainstream media and SEN, the majority of Australians do support Black Lives Matter. They do. Now, I agree that the vast, overwhelming majority of the mainstream media agree with Black Lives Matter, or the commentators are being forced to support Black Lives Matter. Now, this is coming from Sky Sports. You can see here on the cricketing scorecard a Black Lives Matter logo. So Sky Sports support it. Here we've got Michael Holding wearing a Black Lives Matter pin. Nasser Hussain wearing a Black Lives Matter pin. Shane Warne. I've never seen Shane Warne wear a Black Lives Matter pin ever, before or after. The only time that Shane Warne has ever shown any support for Black Lives Matter is when he was on Sky Sports, and that was because he was being forced. He doesn't wear them now. There we have, this is Akram, and I'm pretty sure that's Nick Knight, the former English opening batsman. So they are all supporting a Black Lives Matter. But what about the public? Is Dwayne Russell correct? Do the majority of Australians support Black Lives Matter? So here, this is on Sky News Australia this time. This is Mark Latham talking about Quinton de Kock being forced to take a knee, and then because he refused to take a knee, he was sent home. Now, Mark Latham is slamming South African cricket for forcing Quinton de Kock to do this. As you can see here, ridiculous to force virtue signalling. And how did the public respond? Did the public respond like SEN have responded and cut the caller off and say the majority of the public do support Black Lives Matter. No, the public are agreeing with Mark Latham. The public are agreeing that it is ridiculous to force Quinton de Kock to take a knee. 376 likes, only 8 dislikes. I'll say that again. 376 agree that it's ridiculous and only 8 disagree. But this isn't an isolated incident. We say here again on Sky News Australia, utterly ridiculous. They're saying it's utterly ridiculous to make the players support Black Lives Matter. 595 are agreeing that it's utterly ridiculous, and only 73 are disliking it. 595 agree it's ridiculous, 73 are disliking it and not agreeing. Another Sky News Australian cricket team disgraced themselves by taking the knee to BLM cult. Again, 1,076 likes, only 101 dislikes. You see here, this is a massive, massive disconnect. Another one here. Cricketers kneeling to Marxist ideology will destroy capitalism. This is coming from The Outsiders. 1,681 people liked it, them condemning Cricket Australia for forcing the players to take a knee, and only 70 people disliked it. 681 agree that it's wrong, 70 are with Cricket Australia. So this really shows, though, this insane disconnect where we have the elite running the media telling us that if you do not support Black Lives Matter, you are a racist. And then we've got the public at home saying, no, we do not support Black Lives Matter. And you can see it when anyone speaks out against it, they get supported. We'll have a look at one more. Foolish, dangerous, and wrong. Elite athletes must stop pandering to BLM. 715 people agreed with this. This is Rowan Dean. 715 agree with Rowan Dean. Only 34 agree with Dwayne Russell and Sky Sports, forcing their commentators to wear Black Lives Matter's pins. Absolutely, that is disgraceful. Forcing cricketers to take knees, forcing commentators to wear pins. Black Lives Matter are advocating for things like defunding the police. Most people do not agree with that. That is not a good idea. But I'm going to leave you now with what happened when soccer players in the UK took a knee and the crowd booed it. But what's interesting is Sky Sports again. This is Sky News in the UK. They're condemning the fans for booing the players who took a knee. But you'll notice that Sky News in the UK have disabled the like and dislike function, knowing that the public are going to dislike it en masse. And they've also disabled the comment section, knowing that the majority of the comments are going to be supporting the fans in the stands who booed the players on the ground taking a knee for Black Lives Matter. Let's have a look.
No sooner had they knelt than it began. The sound of booing echoing around the Den before the match against Derby County. And it was definitely the Millwall fans. They were the only ones allowed in under new rules brought in this week to get home supporters back in the stands for the first time since March. Their response to the players' action against racism has been widely condemned. In a statement, Millwall Football Club said it was dismayed and saddened by the booing, adding that the club had been working tirelessly to prepare for the return of supporters, and what should have been a positive and exciting occasion had been completely overshadowed. But the focus of the incident took a new turn after a government minister spoke about the politicisation of the movement to end racial discrimination.
My personal view is that Black Lives Matter, capital B, L and M, is actually a political movement that is different to what most of us believe in, which is standing up for racial equality. But look, each individual can take their own choices about how they reflect this, and I know a number of people feel quite strongly and have taken that approach.
His comments have been greeted with disappointment.
I was shocked, to be honest. It just shows how privileged he is. It shows white privilege, that he can label it as a political movement and move on from it. I would say personally it's more of a social movement that is fighting equality and racial injustice, but him labeling it a political